Welcome to a special edition of Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations. My name is Phil Strum. It's a huge wrestling news day, so we brought together quite the A team of panelists for today. We got the V Squad here. We got Vic Dalishus, and we got Vaughn Johnson with us. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining me. Let's get right to it. So, the rights for Raw, not necessarily Monday Night Raw, but Raw, we're are moving to Netflix starting January 2025. It's a 10-year deal worth $5 billion, which just gobsmacking money. So I'm going to start with Vic, active pro wrestler, great analyst. What was your first reaction upon seeing that Raw is moving to Netflix?
The first words out of my mouth were, "That's a game changer." It changes everything. It changes how my first thought was advertising. You know, what's going to go on with advertising? Will there be commercials? Do the commercials work the same? How's that all going to work? You know, a million questions just start coming in about how the product will be produced, the opportunities that are there for more content, the opportunities that are there to distribute to such a wider audience. You know, WWE right now on the USA Network, they have 74 million. They're in 74 million homes. Netflix has 77 million subscribers. So that move right there just automatically puts them in more homes than USA Network had them in to start with. So it's going to be a crazy switch with viewing habits. I think that convincing a certain generation that their entire viewing has to be done through this new app and like this live streaming thing. I know a lot of people that are very resistant to it, that are of a previous generation, and it's one of those things that throughout the next 365 days, the WWE and Netflix are going to be doing their best to convince everybody to switch over to Netflix, get their subscription going, get familiar with it, and how their live presentation of sports is really going to look and how it's going to be. So those are my initial first thoughts. Vaughn?
And you mentioned about Netflix subscriptions. I will let the listeners know, I believe that I am actually the last person on Earth without a Netflix subscription. So I guess I have a little bit of time to get used to it myself. Anytime I've used it, I've used somebody else's login. So I guess
I'm sure they're going to cut down on that because there's a lot.
They already are. I was going to say that, Vaughn. And then, you know, it's just, Vaughn, your initial reactions to this too. I feel like WWE has been in this situation before, because when they switched over to the WWE Network, that was a big sea change for people who wanted to be able to watch pay-per-views too. So your initial thoughts on the move today and just that.
Yeah, I mean, some surprise and some in areas not that surprise. I mean, a surprise in that WWE took this big of a leap to giving its flagship show to a streaming platform week after week. Live, I would assume, week after week. That's a big leap, but it's a leap that has been a long time coming. When you look at the way television operates these days, we just had an NFL playoff game that was exclusive to Peacock, which is also in business with WWE, and it generated 23 million viewers, which is like apparently, according to NBC, the most streamed television show in the history of the country, according to NBC. So it paid dividends for them. It only cost them $110 million to get the game, but we're leaning in that direction. NFL is also in bed with Amazon. They have all of their Thursday night games that's exclusive to that streaming platform. WWE, like you said, 10 years ago, almost, I think 10 years ago next month, started the WWE Network. And at that time, it was a game changer. Like you said, it was a step forward. And all of a sudden, every promotion out there started popping up with their own streaming platforms. So as much as it's like, it's a surprise to see Raw go in this direction, especially because it's been 30 years. It's an institution on cable television. Every Monday night, you're going to see Monday Night Raw. And now it won't be on cable televisions, only on streaming platforms. And yeah, it's a decision. It's not about the accessibility of the platform. I mean, even though there are over 200 million people who subscribe to Netflix, I believe the exact number is 274. But they don't care. They're taking the money, and they were forcing people to adapt, essentially. It's just like what happened a couple weeks ago with the NFL wildcard playoff game, where there were a lot of complaints. There were a lot of people who were not on board with an NFL game, an NFL playoff game being exclusively on a streaming platform, where there's a lot of people, like Vic said, there's a lot of people from a previous generation who aren't up to date with the technology, or there are those who just don't have the resources, don't have the means to have access to the technology. They're seemingly not concerned about it, or they believe that they can get enough people to convert to make it worth their while, make it, get a nice return on their investment, so to speak. I do have the same thoughts and concerns as far as advertising. Netflix has, I think, either already has or will launch a paid tier or an ad-free tier. So that means there will be a tier with ads. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, just some surprise, but not a massive surprise given just the climate we're living in right now, with all these streaming platforms trying to get as much live content as possible, because that's where the money is. That's where the viewership comes in. It's with live, especially live sports, and these networks have thrown billions of dollars around in the past to these leagues to maintain their exclusivity to the live sports, but the streaming platforms slowly but surely have been encroaching on that territory, so to speak. Bad news for cable, but good news if you're a Netflix subscriber and you don't have a cable subscription. There's a lot of people like that out there as well who've already cut the cord, so they're happy as well. So it's a lot of I'm sure a lot of strong reactions from both sides on this.
I'm going to go the Jesse Ventura route here and say, 74 million and two, me and you, because I'm going to have to sign up at some point, apparently. And I'll go you one better on the Monday nights, for 31 years now, since 1993, January. But Monday night has actually been a destination day for WWE and WWE's predecessors longer than that, because primetime wrestling aired since 1985 prior to that. And Monday night, for people who've been watching for a really, really long time, was the night that Madison Square Garden would have its monthly WWF and then WWF cards from the 70s forward. So Monday night, if it ends up not being a wrestling night, is, for the WWE, pretty crazy. Let's recap a little bit too, which other contracts are kind of moving around here for WWE over the next year. So Raw to Netflix starting January 2025. It's a little unclear what's going to happen between September of 2024 and January of 2025 right now, because they don't actually have a contract that covers that time frame yet. Yep. I don't think they're going to have a problem finding one, because someone will just do it. Even if it's a 3-month thing, the CW will be like, hey, we'll do it. Somebody will pick that up, even if it's just USA jumping in and doing it too. SmackDown in September of 2024 is moving. They're sticking with NBC Universal, WWE, and moving SmackDown to USA Network. NXT in fall of 24 is moving from USA to the CW. And then the other big piece of the puzzle that they still need to figure out is that there's actually two, in my view. You got Peacock, 3 actually. Peacock deal is up at the end of 2020, late 2025. But then also, if they want to separate that out and do a separate deal for the pay-per-views and make them pay-per-views again, kind of like the UFC does it with ESPN Plus, they could do that. So that's another piece of the puzzle they still need to figure out. And then the next one for me too, and I'd like to know where this is going, is the next day rights right now for WWE programming are actually on Hulu. So I can't imagine a world where Netflix would be first day and Hulu would be second day. So that's probably going to be out there too. And a lot of people do watch the next day stuff on Hulu. I know a number of people who do that. The Raw version on Hulu, though, is a truncated 90-minute version, not the full 3 hours. So I don't know. Hopefully the version we get on Netflix on demand is not 90 minutes, because there's a lot that gets cut out of there on the 90-minute version of that. So that's kind of where everything is moving around for WWE. How does this affect everybody downstream, do you think, Vic?
Well, I feel it's really important to think about what you just went through right there, and how the WWE has strategically placed themselves on broadcast television, or network television, on cable television, on streaming platform. TKO brand now is a media conglomerate. and there's no denying that fact. The WWE with their production has the ability to recap all of their shows on every show that they have. So you could be watching the CW and still get up to date on what's happening on SmackDown and Monday Night Raw. So I really feel it's important to remember that WWE is not getting out of the cable television or even the broadcast television business. They're just expanding their reach and moving along with how society and viewing habits are all moving along with them as well. You know, Downstream, I think it offers, in the immediate time, it offers an opportunity for an emerging wrestling company or a wrestling company that is currently on television to make more of an impact on television. There'll be a night that's going to be opened up on television that will have an opportunity to have a live television show that wasn't there before necessarily. And it, you know, provides a lot of opportunities when it comes to the apps and content being created and being released. You know, a lot of times this stuff has been released on YouTube, and we haven't even talked about where that even factors into the equation here, especially with the rights and what people do with the copyright, and all of the stuff is already loaded on YouTube. Literally a minute after a segment is done on Raw, the WWE channel has it right up on YouTube. So, you know, how that all factors into what gets released, and stuff just at one point just was released on, you know, YouTube or maybe on the Peacock app, and now you could have your shows and be put on Netflix, and the opportunity to create stuff and expand the stories and character create with like really in-depth, multifaceted stories, and the cinematic universe and animation, and there's just literally the opportunities are endless. And now with the money coming in, with the wrestling world having an idea that Netflix money is out there, and there's other streaming platforms that are going to want to get into this live wrestling business potentially. It's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan, to be very honest with you. You know, the OVW documentary on Netflix, you have to wonder if that was in any way a dipping of the toes in the casual fan waters, to see who would you know, grab that fish hook and jump in on the characters and who they fell in love with there. So, you know, we don't know how much of that has been going on in planning in the strategic stages all along here. So, you know, it's a crazy time for sure.
And then too, on that, you know, who else they were negotiating with? Apple TV Plus had somebody we're going to have on the show soon too, Danny Cage and his Monster Factory series on there too. So they might have also been doing the exact same thing, kind of testing the waters a little bit to see what wrestling content would look like over there. Vaughn, I know that Tony Khan has said repeatedly that he would not compete with the NFL. But if Monday night comes open and WWE leaves Monday night completely, not even anything at all on Mondays, shouldn't that be like, I don't know. I feel like it's time to kind of maybe reevaluate which days of the week you're on.
Yeah, especially for Collision, which is on Saturday, which is just not an ideal night. But
Right.
at the same time, Monday isn't tremendous because, again, you got Monday Night Football. But the thing about Monday Night Football, and they're starting to change this now with the NFL, but they haven't always had the best matchups on Monday night. So there are times where you get a stinker of a Monday night game, and Raw could probably hold up against it because nobody's really watching the Monday night game. But the NFL starting this year, and it happened this year, they are flexing games onto Monday night now. And it happened earlier this year with the Eagles and Seahawks. And I remember a lot of Eagles fans were upset because the game got moved back a day and it affected a lot of travel plans. Again, NFL doesn't care. They're going to try to get the best time slot for their games. So you're going to face even stiffer competition if you're AEW, if AEW were to go to Monday night. But that's seasonal. So you have the rest of the year to, you know, like WWE does. They do pretty well the rest of the year outside of football season. So for me, if I'm Tony Khan, I am looking for Monday night, because Collision on Saturday is just not going to cut it for long term. Yeah. And you have a lot of competition on Saturdays too with college football. So to me, I'd be looking for that. Now, and there's a thing of habit too that fans have. They look for wrestling on Monday nights. So they might find you, and maybe they'll take a step back, like, hey, this ain't Raw. What is this? But maybe their interest will be piqued because it's something different. So, but if I'm Tony Khan, if I'm AEW, I'm definitely hitting up Warner Brothers Discovery and saying like, hey, can we work something out to get Collision off of Saturdays and onto Mondays? And that could be our spot now.
Yeah, and there's two things to think about there too. One, on the football side, NFL kind of flooded the zone on Mondays a lot this year. They put the Manning cast over on ESPN2. Some weeks they had 2 games, specifically during the SAG strike. They were doing 1 game on ABC, 1 game on ESPN, or a back-to-back deal of 2 games on a Monday night too. So there's a number of like the NFL is going to adjust depending on what the market is too. The other thing that WBD has to worry about right now is that the NBA contract is still out there, and they need to figure out where they fit in with getting the NBA rights. What will that look like? Will it be more streaming? Will it be more TV? We don't know all of that yet either. So there's still a lot of moving parts here, even after today, which is wild. But getting to the other big news of today is that TKO, they made an appointment to their board of directors, and it was Brad Keywell. No, it wasn't Brad Keywell. Well, it was Brad Keywell. Like, he got to be the other guy that was on their board of directors. The real guy was The Rock.
Oh, that guy.
I found that funny when I saw the Brad Keywell appointment too. It was like, come on, like, you're gonna do that at the same time.
It's like Jinder Mahal coming out.
He kind of was, yeah, and he did a great job with that too. I actually really enjoyed what he did there. But getting Dwayne Johnson on this board at TKO now. I would start with Vic. Just how wild is that?
Man, when you think about the story of him and how far this whole thing has come and where The Rock is in all things and all places in the world right now, you know, this man has himself positioned in such a way that he is pop culture. He is everything that is going on. Like, he's got ownership in a water company, tequila company, the XFL merging with the USFL. Now he's on the board of directors with the biggest media conglomerate in all of fighting sports. Like, it's incredible. And when you really read through what he got in this deal and the deal that was made, you cannot be anything other than envious isn't necessarily the word, but in awe of his ability to get the kind of deal that he did. You know, the Rock got the rights to his name, all of his intellectual property, all of the money he's been getting from WWE for royalties and things like that, and will get them all the way down the line, and anything that has to do with his character and likeness forever and until the end of time. Like, it is an unbelievable deal that he has done here, as well as his knowledge and expertise with his family and his history and his wrestling prowess and all of that stuff being brought to that board of directors. The Triple H putting out the congratulations and welcome to the team, you know, showing that synergy right there. It's a powerful duo in sports too, to think about all of that and how these guys are all working together to put together something really awesome. So I didn't see that one coming, but it's pretty cool, and it definitely, as well as the first announcement, changes the game.
And it's 4 generations for his family, specifically in this company too. High Chief Peter Maivia, his grandfather, his father Rocky Johnson himself, and then Ava, who's currently an active wrestler with NXT, his daughter, so whose name is actually Simone Johnson, but everybody gets their name changed to WWE because they like to own the IP. So it's Vaughn. What do you? I mean, like, we got The Rock and Triple H potentially with more probably power than Vince McMahon now, even though Vince McMahon is technically the executive chairman of that board. He's been sort of marginalized to a certain extent by Ari Emanuel in his early days of leading the TKO group. However, they keep saying that, like, Vince is working on bigger stuff. We need him working on the big picture stuff because we don't need him getting into the weeds.
Get him away from that.
Right. But the WWE brands seem to be thriving creatively without him.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's something a lot of people saw coming anyway. But in regards to The Rock and Triple H, 10-year-old me who grew up watching them feud in 2000, especially at Backlash, is having a trip right now because it's like they're on the same side. They're the real 2-man power trip, not Triple H and Steve Austin. It's Triple H and The Rock. That's crazy. But
That's awesome.
And as Vic said, The Rock getting the name The Rock and being able to use that and getting ownership of that's huge. Really cashed out with that because obviously that's what made him into the star that he is, being known as The Rock. And also, The Rock being on the board of TKO really hints to me that he's going to be not just involved with WWE in some way or shape or form on screen, in the short term, but maybe consistently in the future because he's a part of the company. So whenever they need a big bump in ratings, they can just throw The Rock out there maybe. And apparently he went on First Take and talked about Roman Reigns a lot, which I know got a lot of speculation going on social media as to what's going to happen at WrestleMania. But yeah, it's definitely massive news and very intriguing. And it's just, more power to The Rock, man. He worked hard for it, and he's the biggest name in Hollywood after all these years. It's a big gift for TKO. It's a big deal for The Rock, obviously. He's got a lot going on, too, by the way. He's got a football league he's starting up in a couple of months called the UFL that just merged with the USFL, the XFL USFL merger. So he's got that going. So he's got a lot of irons in the fire right now. He's got
maybe
a lot
a WrestleMania match.
Right. So yeah, we got TKO, we got the UFL football league. It's going to launch around WrestleMania, I believe.
I've heard that Young Rock isn't done yet either, necessarily.
That's still going. So yeah, the homie's working. He's booked and busy, as they say. Is that brother Dwayne Johnson? So so yeah, but it's huge. Obviously, it can't be understated how big it is to bring him into that fold, and it's kind of wild to see that The Rock and Triple H, even though, like you said, Vince is an executive chair of the board, but outwardly, they got more power than he does right now. They're more front facing than Vince is right now for WWE, which again is kind of mind blowing considering how front facing Vince was for 40 years as the face of WWE.
You got Ari Emanuel, Vince McMahon, The Rock, Triple H, and Dana White all on the same team now. It's just absolutely incredible to see what is happening at TKO.
A lot of ego and testosterone in that power structure right there.
But if they get together in the right way, a lot of money for everybody all around, and most importantly for the people who work there too, and for the the people who are independent contractors as pro wrestlers who have regular work there. We only have about a minute or two left here, but the one thing that a friend of mine brought up to me today, he's like, what do ratings even mean anymore? Is cable dying? Is this the first step toward that? If you can give me that in 30 seconds, Vic, what do you think? Well,
it's definitely going to be something that's we're all going to talk about it. We're going to be able to know exactly who watches Monday Night Raw, or Raw instead of saying Monday Night Raw. We're going to know who watches Raw based off of how often it's watched on the app. And then those are going to be the official numbers. And it's not going to be the Nielsen ratings, which are, there's a lot of flaws in that system. And there's a lot of things. We're going to find out who's really watching every single night. And then they'll be able to watch who watches it the next day, who watches it 2 hours later. All of that will be invaluable statistics and invaluable information for them. And we're just getting started with actually finding out the real true viewing habits of wrestling fans right now.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this special edition of Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations. I'd like to thank Vic Dalishus. You have some shows coming up with ISPW and also with Outlaw Wrestling, right?
Yes, sir. We're tag team champions in both places, so look them up and check us out.
All right. Thanks again to Vaughn Johnson. You can catch his stuff on Wrestling Junkie. Thanks to the Goes, and thanks to Chandler for helping, and Nick Tillwalk for getting us going today. You can find us every week. You know where to find us. So thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great one.